Good morning. We are on lesson 3 this morning in our study guide. Lesson number 3 in this quarter's study. This quarter's study is Jesus, the Master Teacher. And the title of this morning's lesson is what?
Misplaced priorities.
Misplaced Priorities. We pick up in the book. Huh?
I said I got some of those.
That when I saw that title, it made me think of like 20 million other things other than this lesson and this lesson as well. So, but yeah, point well taken. It is the book of Mark. If you want to follow along in your Bible, that is Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 20. Also called this section called Jesus Restores the Gadarene Demoniac. What is a demoniac?
A man full of demons.
A man possessed with demons. Oh yeah, before I go much further, I'd like to wish everyone a happy Father's Day. I was lucky enough to do the Bible study on Mother's Day as well. And I told Heather, I found it kind of curious this morning that it just so happens to be on Father's Day that our lesson's about a man who's possessed by demons. So Heather said maybe that was on purpose. They intended to do that. And I said maybe, but I know, maybe they're trying to tell us something. But regardless of all that, most of us already know this story from the Bible. We know these verses, this account of the demon-possessed man that Jesus restores. This morning we are going to focus on the verses that are penned by John Mark, universally believed to be John Mark. And there's also another account of this same story in the book of Luke. So Luke 8:26 through 39. We don't have time to read that, but it's the same story, but it's Luke's account of it, if y'all want to read that later on. We're going to get into the verses here in a second, but while doing this, studying this, it occurred to me how easy it was for me, or how quick I was to simply accept that this man was demon-possessed, and not me accepting that he was demon-possessed, but it instantly dehumanized him for me. That was the first thing I thought of, how it kind of put him out of my mind as a man, and it's like, oh, he's just somebody with demons. What we need to keep in mind is this man was a real person. I had to keep on telling myself that and reminding myself of that. He was a real person. He was a unique individual. He had dreams, aspirations. He had friends, family, mother, and a father. So I'm telling myself this as much as anybody else. Let's not overlook or gloss over the fact that this was a real man. He really existed, and he suffered due to this demon possession. Before we get into the text, the big question, does demon possession happen today?
No.
No.
Yes.
Why and why not?
They can't just come in and just take over you like what happened then, but you had the free will to let demons, the devil is a demon, he worked through, you if you let.
That's true, but I mean, this man, and we're going to get into, there's different ways to look at whether this man was partially in control or the demons were fully in control, and the verses are kind of, you see, it just depends on your opinion. It depends on if you think that the man's talking here or the demon's talking, then there's verses that you know the demon's talking. But I'm talking about like true demon possession, like The Exorcist and all that stuff.
YouTube says that. YouTube says it does.
A lot of places say it do. All these movies, there's a movie coming out. I was watching TV this morning, and a commercial came on for a movie that's going to be coming out, and it's about demon possession.
Are you going to define demon and devil as the same?
No, I'm talking about a demon.
Those are not. I mean, at this time they were not.
Correct. I'm talking about a demon. Why does it not happen now then? How can we say?
They were to allow Jesus to prove his ability to control the spiritual world, and that has happened.
Yes, very
so
true.
We don't need demons.
Is there a verse?
That's what he did in the story.
Yes. On top of, I'm kind of asking for like a pointed verse, but we have over and over and over again we see that what you said is the case. Zechariah chapter 13 verses 1 and 2. And this was speaking of the coming Christ. In that day a fountain shall be opened for the house of David and for the inhabitants of Jerusalem for sin and uncleanliness. It shall be in that day, says the Lord God of hosts, that I will cut off the names of the idols of the land, and they shall no longer be remembered. I will also cause the prophets and the unclean spirit to depart from the land. What kind of demon was this man possessed by this morning? An unclean spirit. It also talks about prophets in there too, that day is coming too. So that's another lesson that we don't have time for, but no one can legitimately call themselves prophet today either. On page 16 of our workbook, the introduction, some things are more important than others. This is where the title, Misplaced Priorities, comes from. Some things are more important than others. For example, Jesus taught that a man's soul is worth more than all the treasures of the world. He asked, for what profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? Or what will a man give in exchange for his soul? Matthew 16:26. Because a person's soul is more valuable than his or her possessions, individuals should be more concerned about spiritual matters than physical concerns. Nevertheless, this is often not the case. How frequently do people allow mundane activities to hinder their service to Christ and His church? Again, the title this morning is Misplaced Priorities. In this lesson, we are about to see how people grew angry when a man, thanks to Jesus, gained back himself through the loss of 2,000 pigs. If you say it that way, it's like these people literally were upset that they gained a man and lost pigs. If you think about it, that's really what happened this morning. These people valued the pigs more than they did the soul and the life of this man. Mark 5:1-20. Then they came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gadarenes. And when he had come out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one could bind him, not even with chains, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains. And the chains had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces. Neither could anyone tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out, cutting himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and worshipped him. And he cried out with a loud voice and said, What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the God Most High? I implore you by God that you do not torment me. For he said to him, Come out of the man, unclean spirit. Then he asked him, What is your name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. And he begged him earnestly that he would not send them out of the country. Now a large herd of swine was feeding there near the mountains. So all the demons begged him, saying, Send us to the swine, that we may enter them. And at once Jesus gave them permission, and the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine. There were about 2,000. And the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea, and drowned in the sea. So those who fed the swine fled, and they told it in the city and in the country. And they went out to see what it was that had happened. Then they came to Jesus and saw the one who had been demon-possessed, and had the legion sitting and clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who saw it told them how it happened to him who had been demon-possessed, and about the swine. Then they began to plead with him to depart from their region. And when he got into the boat, he who had been demon-possessed begged him that he might be with him. However, Jesus did not permit him, but said to him, Go home to your friends and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you, and how he has had compassion on you. And he departed and began to proclaim in Decapolis all that Jesus had done for him, and all marveled. Like I said, most of us know this story this morning, and it's paralleled in Luke. But let's start at verse 1. Then they came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gadarenes. What they?
Jesus and the apostles.
Jesus and the apostles, correct. They were on a boat. If they came to the other side of the sea, well, what sea? The Sea of Galilee, which, when I think of sea, I think of salt water and all that. But the Sea of Galilee is not salt water. It is the largest freshwater lake in Israel. The Sea of Galilee is about 13 miles long and 8 miles wide. It's very beautiful too. I don't know if you have seen any pictures of it. It's very pretty. They, Jesus and the apostles, went to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, to the country of the Gadarenes. That was on the eastern side of the Sea of Galilee. It was called the country of the Gadarenes because the city of Gadara was the largest town in that area. So, since it was the largest town, ergo the whole area was called the Gadarenes. Put in your mind a bunch of smaller communities. We're not talking about one big city. We're talking about a bunch of small communities that were spread out along the Sea of Galilee. Verse 2, and when he had come out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. This was very interesting to me. It starts out in verse 1, they came out, so it's talking about Jesus and the apostles. From verse 2 all the way to the end, we don't hear a peep out of the apostles anymore. We don't know why, but maybe they were scared as everybody else was. The only people we hear of really are, other than the people that come to see this spectacle, if you want to call it that, were Jesus and the man. So the they becomes he, Jesus. And this becomes, from the rest of the verses, this becomes a very close one-on-one relationship between Jesus and this man. Now Jesus is the Son of God. He's sinless. He's perfect. And is the personification of being pure and clean. Correct? Compare this to the man who is what?
Unclean.
Opposite side of the spectrum.
Colin,
Yes, sir.
before you go further, if you don't mind, we know a lot of times on TV and how they portray demons towards men of God. There's nothing like this anywhere in the Bible where the demons try to challenge God. No way.
Quite the opposite, and we're about to get into that. It's actually kind of fun to read. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. We've all seen plenty of movies where there's, the bad guys, which are the demons, and then the good guys, and they fight with them, and they have a cross, and they struggle, and we don't see that here, and just like you said, you don't see it anywhere in the Bible. It is the opposite, Jesus walks in, and they... Fear is the best word for it. This man had an unclean spirit. The meaning of unclean spirit, we're not just talking about a sinner. Not at all. This unclean spirit is a spirit of impurity or an evil spirit. It wasn't this man's spirit, but it was another one because he was possessed by a demon or demons, as we're going to see. Immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit who had his dwelling place among the tombs, and no one could bind him, not even with chains. This unclean spirit that was dwelling inside of this man forced this man to dwell, meaning to live and to make his existence in these caves and tombs that were all on the hillsides. It was dirty, it was filthy, and it was unclean because not only were these just caves, they were tombs. Several other things I read said people would go up in there if they had nowhere else to go, or they would lay in wait to rob people, that kind of thing. This man was being tortured by these demons. Verse number 4, and no one could bind him, not even with chains, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces. Neither could anyone tame him. This unclean spirit was strong. Very, very strong. It was powerful, and it gave man's body strength. Brother Gunner's not here this morning, but I'm sure he could tell us plenty of stories of people that are stories he's heard or things that he's seen of people on drugs, people that are enraged, people that are out of their minds, to use the expression, that have great strength that you wouldn't think that a person could have. You hear of people doing that with a car rolls over and people will go up and lean to it and pick it up, and they don't know how they did it, but things can happen like that. I have a friend who's a former policeman. He's told me all kind of terrible stories. He said people will be handcuffed, be on PCP, be on drugs, and can just break their handcuffs. When they do that, though, he said every time, they break both their arms. He said he's seen people punch through windshields. Just punch straight through windshields. When they do that, there's not much left of their hands afterwards. The point behind all that is when the anger wears off, when the drugs wear off, when the let wears off, then they're no longer able to do this anymore.
And hurt.
Yeah, and they hurt for it. We're not really seeing that here with this man.
Colin,
Yes, sir.
one parallel in this, if you look at it. demons, unclean spirits, whatever, man is trying to control and cannot. The chains, whatever man can do, cannot control them.
Mhm.
Jesus comes in complete control.
Just like that, exactly. This man was like this every day. No one could tame him. He was like this day and night. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out and cutting himself with stones. And it says always, day and night. That means constantly. That means all the time he was being tormented. Yes, sir.
We hadn't got that far yet, but I don't want to jump ahead, but he was submissive to Jesus from the first time he saw him.
Right when, yeah, immediately, right when he came out of the boat, immediately there met him and man. This is just the description. Immediately when he came out of the boat, he went straightway to Jesus, cutting himself with stones. So day and night, constantly, this man was tormented all day, every day, as we would say. Verse number 6, when, now, our, was it personal pronouns? Get all kind of he, we, get all crazy. When he, this is the man, or the demon-possessed man, saw Jesus from afar, he ran and worshipped him. Ran and worshipped Jesus. So, immediately, right there in verse 6, like you said. Yes, sir?
I had a friend that was a jailer here in Lowndes County, and they crying out and they hollering, and he said that goes on in the jailhouses here. I imagine how it is in prison. He said they be up there at night, they be yelling out, crying, top of their voice, moaning, someone be slanging. He said, you'll be amazed what goes on when people get locked up.
I don't know if you've seen that show, Locked Up. Heather watches it, and they'll have the camera going through, and they'll show different people and different stories, but they'll have it in the middle of the night, and all you hear is just crazy noises. It's terrible. And this was worse than that. When he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and worshipped him. There's some question here, something that we're not specifically told. And we talked about this earlier. Is the demon in full control, or does the man have partial control? Kind of not really told, and there's really no reason to speculate. It's just all we need to know is it's a mess. Either way, if the man was in control right here, or the demon was in control, Jesus' power was recognized. If it was the man, then he knew Jesus could heal him. If it was the demon, then it or they went to Jesus out of fear. Even the demons knew God's power. Verse number 7, then he, the man, cried out with a loud voice and said, what have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of God Most High? Most High God, I implore you, by God, that you do not torment me. What have I to do with you? That was the demon's way of bowing down to Jesus and saying, what have I done to you? Leave me alone. That was what that was. This part seems very odd to me. I implore you, by God, that you do not torment me. Even the demons believe that God is God. How can something that's evil call on the Most High and good to not, it's a contradiction in terms. So imagine.
So it just seemed like he understood that Jesus was the Son of God.
Very much so. Imagine that, a demon asking for a favor from the Son of God by God's power to not be bothered or pestered by Jesus. After the demons tormenting the man and tormenting the whole countryside, he asked to not be tormented by Jesus. But the demon acknowledges the power of Jesus and of God. As strong and as frightening as the power was of this demon, it knew that it was no match for the power of Jesus. Verse number 8, for he, Jesus, said to him, the demon, come out of the man, unclean spirit. Let's remember Zechariah 13:2. I will also cause the prophets and the unclean spirits to depart from the land. So we read verse 8, and then right into verse 9, you see that the demon hasn't left yet. There are people that seriously believe that Jesus failed at getting this demon out. There are people that say, well, he said come out, and the demon didn't come out, so he just kept on working. And that's not what happened. So was it because Jesus was unable? No. That's preposterous. And like I said, it amazes me that people believe that. Verse number 9, then he, Jesus, said to the man, what is your name? And he answered, saying, my name is Legion, for we are many. So if Jesus was the Son of God, which he is, did Jesus have to ask the demon's name either?
He knew.
He knew. Why did he ask the demon his name?
The apostles and everybody around.
There were, yeah. For, what's the name of our study this quarter? Jesus the Master Teacher. He's teaching here. But at the same time, he's making the demon confess that it's a demon. What's your name? Now we see some craziness in how the demon says my and we, and it starts switching all over the place. It shows you the turmoil that's going on inside this man. And he answered saying, my name is Legion, for we are many. How many soldiers were in a Roman legion?
Was it 100? No, 10,000? 500.
6,000.
6,000.
About. Yeah. A Roman legion is about 6,000. So whether this was exactly 6,000 demons, the point is it's a lot. It's a whole lot of demons that were possessed in this, that were inside this one man. Verse number 10. And he begged him earnestly, this is the demon, he begged him, Jesus, earnestly, that Jesus would not send them out of the country. So once again, the demon says he and the demon says them. Some commentaries, some lines of thought, or maybe this is one demon talking on behalf of all the demons, and they're going back and forth, whether that be the case, who knows. Just that there's lots of changes in the speaking by this demon, and it shows how unsettling. It's very unnerving. That they would not send them out of the country. The demon did not mean the actual country of the Gadarenes. He meant out of what? The world. He meant out of everywhere. Because if God, or if Jesus sent him out of the world, where's he going to go? To the abyss. Exactly. That's where he's going. He knows where he's going if he has to leave this man. He also knew that Jesus wasn't going to let him stay in this man. It brings us to verse number 11. Now a large herd of swine was feeding there near the mountains. Swine are what? Pigs. So here, swine become possessed by these evil spirits. Just as an aside, what only other animal in the Bible is ever listed as being possessed? Serpent. Correct. Serpent is a symbol or representative of intellectual cunning. What is swine? What are pigs representative of? Dirtiness. Filthy as a pig. Mom said that many a time. And this is an unclean spirit. So they go together. Verse number 12. So all the demons begged him, saying, send us to the swine that we may enter them. Suddenly they get their tenses correct. Verse number 12, we definitely know that we're talking to the demons here. These are the demons speaking to Jesus.
Colin, you back up a little. You're talking about people saying that Jesus failed because he didn't go. Could he not be talking to the demons outside the man? He said come out and then start talking to them. That doesn't say anywhere else in here that he did get them to come out and go on in the swine. He got them out, he talked to them, and set them up.
That's very possible, actually, yes. He could have been, we're not told that, but, the point, I just don't understand how people say that, Jesus, there's also several other things, crazy things where people say, well, Jesus failed here, so they had to do. Yeah, but that's a good point. Yes, it could have been. Verse number 12, send us to the swine that we may enter them. Back to verse number 10, don't send us out of the country. The demons wanted to go into the swine because they didn't want to go in the abyss. They wanted to go anywhere but to the abyss. Send us here, send us there. But like we said, they knew that Jesus was not going to allow them to remain in that man. But if they, we're speculating on the behalf of demons, but if they could go in the pigs, they would likely do, what do y'all think would happen if 6,000 demons went into 2,000 pigs? They're going to make a mess. They're going to go everywhere. They're going to tear up towns. They're going to make... That's probably what they thought. Let us stay on this earth. Let us keep on doing our mischief here. Verse number 12 is very curious to me because the demons tried to bargain with Jesus. How does that work? How does that work out for the demons when they tried to bargain with Jesus here? We're about to see in 13, not well. Can we make bargains with Jesus today? Can we? Oh.
You can ask her.
Yeah. We have the Bible. We have the will of God and the direction that we should do. So it's... Yeah, exactly. But it just seems very interesting to me that they tried to bargain with Jesus. Verse number 13, and at once Jesus gave them permission. Then the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine. There were about 2,000, and the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea and drowned in the sea. When I was younger, I never understood. I was like, why do the demons want to do that? And then now I realize maybe the demons didn't want to do that. Because if they wanted to do that, they could have done that when they were in the man. They could have just run down and gone in the sea if they wanted to then. But when Jesus gave them permission to go into the swine, they ran and drowned in the Sea of Galilee. Several commentators that are wrong said that the man was never demon-possessed, and the man shouted, and all these pigs just ran into the ocean and drowned, or ran into the sea and drowned. That's not the case. This was by design, in short. The demons, like I said, they thought they were making a deal. They thought that Jesus had gone along with their proposed bargain. Galatians 6:7 says, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked." Maybe the demons thought they were going to get their way or get something over on Jesus. God is not mocked. That was not going to happen. Jesus did not make a bargain with the demons. His will was done. Why? Because Jesus did away with the demons. He healed the man, and he did all this in the presence of the apostles, the Gadarenes, and everybody else that was around. In one fell swoop, Jesus did all of this. Title of our study this quarter, Jesus the Master Teacher. He made people sit back and wonder, wow.
I think that the demons knew that Jesus was going to get rid of them. And he let them choose which way they wanted to die.
Possibly, yes.
You know, just look at
They knew their time was coming.
I could see because he, not saying them right, but he told them to come out of the man, and they came out of it. You know, that's what he said. Come out, you unclean spirit. And they said, we are many. He had his name. They said, legion. We are many.
The fact is, like you said, they feared him. They recognized his power. They knew this to be an inevitability. The craziness is, to me, that they would rather continue in that than do what's right. And that's the real lesson, but I don't want to jump ahead. Verse number 14. So those who fed the swine fled and told it the story of what happened in the city and in the country, and they went out to see what it was that had happened. If you tell something to people who live in the country, in the city, then who have you told it to? Everybody. You know, this is the same as our other studies where it says from the hill to the valley to the cities, town. Everybody got told this quickly. So all of the people got told.
I'd like to add something.
Sure.
They, in verse 14, they fled the swine. Those, when the demons got in, the swine went crazy, you know, out of control.
Mm-hmm.
So the people out there, someone was in the, they had to get out of the way. You know, they had to get out of the swine's way because they were rapidly out of control, whatever, running into the sea. And he said that they that fled, they went and told others.
Mm-hmm. This was a spectacle.
Out of control, you know.
This was a commotion, and this man couldn't be tamed. We're talking about a person that everybody feared. These people feared. Everybody knew don't go over there where this man is, this demon-possessed man is. So this had people rattled, to say the least. The second sentence in there, and they went out to see what it was that had happened. So the people who fed the swine told everybody, and everybody came back to where this happened. To look, to see what happened exactly. Word spread like wildfire among the people in this area, and they went to witness it for themselves. Once again, Jesus, the Master Teacher.
I mean, we flock to see the damage done by a tornado. What if it's demons, you know?
Yeah.
We want to go see where they went.
I was driving the other day, and a policeman it was on the interstate, or I think it was highway patrol. He was behind a car because they had a flat tire, and he had his lights on. He was helping them. Traffic on the other side of the road was backed up for 2.5 miles. And they didn't know why they were backed up, but they saw blue lights. They're looking for something. Everybody's got to see something. Verse 15, then they came to Jesus and saw the one who had been demon-possessed and had the legion sitting and clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. Then they is all the people. The man was now sitting and clothed in his right mind. This "and clothed" kind of insinuates that he was naked before. And he was, if you look at Luke's account. All of these people came out to see this and were afraid. Then it meant that they all knew of the man's former condition. Like I said, if they came out to see this thing, they knew, like, did you hear that so-and-so? But no one can tame this guy. No, we know not to go over there. Everyone wanted to see this for themselves. So here, Jesus did what they thought was impossible, and he stood by them after he did this, and their power, or Jesus' power, frightened these people. Because Jesus was powerful enough to tame what everybody was unable to do. Verse 16, and those who saw it told them how it happened to him who had been demon-possessed and about the swine. This is where we're about to see the whole story kind of turn, where we see people begin to put their love of worldly things over their love of souls and the love of the well-being of their fellow man. Then they began to plead with him to depart from the region. It struck me as crazy. There are plenty of TV shows on that you see people that come for hundreds of miles to be healed by this and healed by that. That struck me as absolutely crazy. I got to thinking about that. Who asked the Son of God to leave? What kind of people asked the Son of God to leave? Someone who did this thing. Yeah, well, they were. But I got to thinking, yeah, they were. They were upset about that. But I got to thinking of these non-believers. I mean, people that truly don't believe. And I was like, yeah, maybe yes and maybe no. Maybe there were people who did believe in God's power but didn't want to be convicted of being wrong. Just go away where we don't see that you're right and that makes us wrong.
They didn't have their priorities right.
Very true.
Well, like you said, they were Gentiles, because you said there was swine, there was people that owned those swine, they weren't Jews.
Correct. I read one commentary that said there was most definitely Jews that had these. I was like, no, it wasn't. Duh. Yeah, they wouldn't have been, no. These were Gentiles, correct. Then they began to plead with him to depart from their region because they were scared of Jesus' power. After all, they were afraid of the demon-possessed man. Why not be afraid one who is powerful enough to get rid of the demon? And also, like was said, they were angry because of the loss of the some odd 2,000 head of swine. I mean, they were upset. That represented money to them. They're like, we lost all our pigs, but who cares if this man is back? It's terrible. Verse 18, and when he, as Jesus, got into the boat, he who had been demon-possessed begged him, as Jesus, that he might be with him. And why wouldn't this man want to be with his deliverer? We're not told how long he was suffering like that, how long he was demon-possessed. Long enough. You know, if it's 2 minutes, that's long enough. Thought about that. It's the same with us today. As Christians, we should ever desire to be with Jesus. You don't see men looking longingly at the drowning pigs in this sermon, or in this section verses. You don't see people going, oh, I miss those pigs over there. I wish we could have those, demon-possessed pigs back. Then why, as Christians, do we sometimes have so much trouble going back to the things that we used to do before we were Christians? 19 and 20 in closing. However, Jesus did not permit him, but said to him, go home to your friends and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you and how he has had compassion on you. However, that means nevertheless, yet, Jesus knew that this man would be better use and better testament by now being healed, telling everyone that knew of him before he was healed. The man just didn't get healed by Jesus. Jesus tasked him with being a missionary for Christ. We are the same today. We sing the song, "This little light of mine, I will let it shine." We don't just take our Christianity and bundle it up and say, I've got it now. Hang on to it. Now that you've got it, now that he has been healed, he takes that out and takes it to the world. And he departed and began to proclaim in Decapolis all that Jesus had done for him, and all marveled. Proclaim is to announce publicly or officially, to declare something to be. Was he afraid to do this? No, he went everywhere and did this. Decapolis was a region of 10 cities, hence the name Decapolis. This man was told to do something by Jesus, and he went straightway and began his task. He knew Jesus' power, believed it, and acted upon it. It's the same with us today. We don't think that the Bible is the true and living Word of God. We know it is. We have to proclaim that Jesus is the Son of God Most High. It has been tasked to us to go and plant the seed of the Word, and God will give the increase. Thank you.